We are holding on the bottom of 40. Okay, we're holding on the bottom of 42B3. In other words, at the bottom of Mem Beis, Amud Beis, literally the last two lines. Okay, just so because the Gemara starts off a little interesting, I remind everybody that the Gemara always looks at life realistically. The Gemara always looks at life realistically and looks at the totality of life and all its interesting situations. All right. So the Gemara starts. The Mishnah started like this. Once again, it was talking about either chametz that is a taruvos, meaning chametz that is found within other ingredients, as it were, other stuff, so that the chametz itself is not be'en, is not something that you can actually discern. You can't discern the chametz. That's chametz taruvos chametz. And then there's chametz noksha, incomplete, defective chametz. And chametz noksha, incomplete, defective chametz, is the idea it's not really edible. It's certainly not really edible, but the chametz is be'en. The chametz is there, is distinct. You could see the chametz. It's just that it's half baked. Whatever, for whatever reason, it's defective. It's not the kind of thing that you're going to pop into your mouth. Nonetheless, in both these cases, whether chametz taruvos, chametz that is part of a mixture, so that the chametz itself is not discernible, or whether it's chametz noksha, meaning defective chametz in whatever manner, but it is discernible. The Mishnah went through a bunch of cases that it's also to keep it on Yom on the Pesach, and if you do, you're over on Bal Yeroya, Bal Yemotza, at least according to Rashi. So now, we are on the second to last line of 42b3, and we begin like this. And Rabbi Eliezer said in the Mishnah, Af tachshite noshim, even the cosmetics of women. So, Frank the Gemara, tachshite noshim, salkedatach, do you really mean the cosmetics of women? They don't have any chametz. They don't have chametz mixed into them, and they certainly are not chametz noksha. That's chametz that's there, that's just defective. The ingredients that are used for women's cosmetics are not chametz stick. We're talking about here also as well with the paste that women use to take off unwanted hair. Now, before we ended the previous Gemara with the words the koloin shel sefarim, shel seifrim, describes paste, colon, and we said that's exactly what that was, that was also to take off. That was to take off unwanted hair. However, the Frierdiker Gemara, the previous Gemara, but Kohen Shel Sfarim, was for paste, for hair removing paste that had to do with the face. Here we're talking about hair removal from the nether regions, from the pubic area. Okay, and again, why is the Gemara getting involved in this? Because the Gemara gets involved in anything that has to do with life. And it says, how does it apply to halacha? So the Gemara says like there, even the hair removal paste, that's what this means. When he tachshite noshim, when he means the cosmetics of women, he means the paste to remove unwanted hair. The other Rabbi Huda Benois Yisrael, the daughters of Yisrael, and we're on top of Mem Gimel Amid Aleph, Shegiu lepirkon v'lo yegiu l'shanim. So as we know, according to Jewish law, a girl matures at the age of 12 and a boy matures at the age of 13. Biblically speaking, Minat Torah, what does it mean to mature? It means to show two hairs, two pubic hairs, either by a woman or by a man, which would then make them mechayev in mitzvahs. Here's a case where the girl, shegiu lepirkon, that the girl starts maturing early. So she matures, she starts showing hair in the pubic area early, before the age of 12. But she had not reached yet 12 years old. So obviously, she was embarrassed by it. She was too young for it. She's embarrassed, and they want to remove it. So the B'nai Saniyim, the girls of the poor people, they would smear themselves with lime. And lime, of course, is not a chametz. That's not the problem. The next one is the problem. B'nai Sashirim, the daughters of the rich people, they would smear themselves with the paste of silas, which is fine flour. And that obviously, should it get wet, obviously could become chametz. B'nois melachim, and the daughters of kings, b'shemen hamar, would smear themselves with the shemen hamar. Shenema, like it says in the Megillah, shish chadoshim b'shemen hamar. 6 months, Esther was smeared with shemen hamar, with the shemen hamar. So, Frank, the Gemara, while we're on the subject of shemen hamar, my shemen hamar, what does it mean, shemen hamar? Rabbi Huda b'Rabbi Yomi Oma, Sotchas. It means Sotchas. Interesting Rashi, the 4th line of Rashi, what they call right before it gets skinny, Sochtach, Lo Yisparish. We do not know what this means. Okay? The Gemara is using a word that even by the time of Rashi, they had forgotten what it means. Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba Oma, this is what Shemen Hamor is. Shemen Zayis, olive oil, Shalayaviu, Shlish, that had not reached a third of its ripeness. The olives had not reached a third of its ripeness. So why did they use this? Why did the Benois Malachim, the daughters of the kings, use this paste? Bibnei Shemashir es, because number one, by using it, it removed the unwanted hair. Umedamein es habasa, and at the same time, it caused the skin to glow. It was the shemen amor, which let's say is the olive oil that's a third of a ripeness, has the power in it to be strong enough to remove unwanted hair. At the same time, makes the skin begin to shine. We're going to bang into this a lot of times in Shas. One of the things that they did at the time, good morning, Isaac, Shvua Tov, that at the time we will find that many times they talk about how the girls went ahead and shined their skin to make it glow, because even then they were very, very busy with shidduchim, with getting married and the difficulties in attracting a mate. So the difference between this and the previous Kalain Shel Sefarim, the paste of scribes, is that the paste of scribes was on the face, and this paste that we're talking about was the paste that was used down below in the pubic area. And again, why is the Gemara touching on this? Because this was part of life. This was what was done. And so if it's part of life, Zui Torah v'tzarich l'madata, then it's Torah and it needs to be learned. So it's up to Gemara Vaita. We're at the 2 dots of Mem Gimel Amid Aleph, the first A1. Ze'aklal. This, the Mishnah said, Kol shuhu mimin dogon, anything that is a species of grain, right, cannot be kept over Pesach, and if it is, which meant whether it's even taruvais, even if it's chametz that's mixed in a mixture, so that the chametz itself is no longer be'en, is no longer discernible, or whether it's chametz noksha, defective chametz that you really is not edible, but nonetheless it's here, you can see it, it is be'en, it is discernible. Those kind of chametzes, even though they're not like your regular good old chametz, right? If you keep them on Pesach, you're over on Bal Yirah, Bal Yimatzah, you shall not see, you shall not find. So Tanya says the Gemara Amar Yeshua v'chimeyacha sheshinu kol shuhu min dogon harei zeh oiva b'Pesach. Now that the Mishnah has said the broad statement, anything that's a species of grain, you are over on it. You have committed a prohibition if you keep it over Pesach. Lama manu chachamim es elu. So then why did the Chachamim in the Mishnah go ahead and break out Kutach abavli seichar amodi chaymet ha'amoyni v'zisam ha'mitzri v'zoyim shalatzovim v'alimim shalatabachim, etc., etc. Why did it go ahead and break out all the particulars if it was going to then say anything made out of grain is no good? Period. So Zakh Gemara, Kedei shi'ei rogel behen u'b'shimoy sehen, so that people should become rogel in them. They should know exactly what they are and their names. For an example, there was a story, Kiyahu Bar Marova. There was somebody that came from the west, from Eretz Yisrael. Ikla LeBavel. He came to Bavel. Hoya Bisra Bahade, and he had meat with him with his bread. Amalahu. So he said to the waiters that were there, Kerivuli Mas Chilta. Please bring me a condiment, so I could put something on my bread. Rashi says, shum, it was sesame to put on his bread. In other words, techina. So in other words, even at the time of the Gemara, the Jews liked techina, sesame paste. Rashi says, shum lepasan lefes esapas. Shum means sesame paste to go ahead and smear on the bread. So it seems that it's part of our Jewish DNA to like techina. Anyways, and hummus. Amaru karibulu me maschila. Bring me maschila. Bring me the condiment to smear on my bread. Shama. He then heard that the waiters were saying karivule chutach. They heard him, instead of saying mischilta, they heard it as chutach. And since he had learned this Mishnah, he knew that chutach was a milchik, a dairy type of dip made out of, if you remember, moldy bread. Chiva de shama chutach pirish. Since he heard chutach, he was pirish because obviously he was eating meat, and therefore he made sure to think. So that's why the Mishnah went out of its way to break out exactly what each one of these things mean. So now the Mishnah went on and said these following words. Having spoken to you that it is asur to keep chametz taruvais, chametz that are mixed into a mixture so that the chametz itself is not discernible, or chametz nuksha, defective chametz that is discernible. Nonetheless, if the Mishnah says, Harei elu ba'azara, these are within azara, meaning these are within a warning, a prohibition, i.e., that you get malchus, but you do not get chorus. The punishment is not the death sentence of chorus. It is malchus. It is malchus, which makes it different, obviously, than regular chametz on Pesach. That should you keep regular chametz on Pesach, you're chayiv chorus. You're chayiv the death penalty.
I thought that would have been the reason why to mention all the names.
Okay, so the Gemara does not say that. The Gemara says, because once I give a broad, I could have said as follows: Kol min dogon she'enoi chomutz gomor. That's all you have to say. Anything, any species of grain that's not a perfect chametz, what do you call it? You're not allowed to have on Pesach. Although it's harei elu azar, it's only a lav. So that's why they went out and broke it out. It wouldn't have been good enough. So Harei Elu Ba'azor. So Freit the Gemara asks the Gemara Mantano, who's the Tana that says, well, if you're over on Bal Yoroi, Bal Yimotze, still, because there's a difference of these kind of chametz versus the classical case of chametz, these are only belav, while the classical case is with karos. Says the Gemara, we're on 43a2. Dogon Gomor, which is what I was just telling Charlie, Dogon Gomor, full-fledged chametz, grain, Dogon is grain, full-fledged grain chametz, Ayudei Taruvais, and Abat, that is now mixed up in a mixture so that it is no longer distinct. So you've got actual chametz that has been broken down into a mixture, and the chametz itself is not distinct. Or the noksha, chametz noksha, which is be'ene, is distinct. It's defective. It's not really edible, but it's distinct. It says, Bilav, the answer is, even with all these cases, you are over on Bal Yeroah, Bal Yemotza if you keep it on Pesach, but you only get a lot. It's up to Gemara, Rabbi Yehuda, Rav, Rameir. It's Rameir. The Tanya, because he learns Sayar, which is different than Sayar is not CR. Sa'ar is sour bread, meaning actual chametz. Sayar is defective bread, partially baked bread, incomplete leavened dough. Okay? That's the way Art School uses the words. Number 16, if anybody's got this over there. Sayar is incompletely, an interesting word, leavened dough. Okay? Okay, so then it's under the definition of nuksha. It's not really edible. Okay? So what's the halacha? Listen to the way it goes. The Tanya, Sayar, this incomplete dough, this incomplete leavened dough, Yisrael, shall be burnt. Aber v'noistan lekelboy, but you're allowed to give it to your dog. Obviously, that's a contradiction. It's either burnt or you're allowed to give it to your dog, because giving it to your dog is having benefit from it. And v'oichlai, whoever eats it, be'arboim, gets 40 lashes, gets malchus, does not get chorus, gets lashes. So first of all, the Gemara asks, Hagufa kasha. It itself is a question.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, sure.
What's the difference in malchus with whether it's deraisa or rabbanan? Is there a difference in the number of lashes?
No. So the malchus mardus is the rabbanan. Okay, so
Right.
the answer to that is, and what Charlie is asking, if you ever remember on Yom Kippur, we say al chatoim, after the al chetz, we say al chatoim shonu chayom maleim, and one of them is al chatoim shonu chayom maleim malchus mardus. That's the rabbinical malchus. So the answer is no. And in fact, even Minat Torah, Charlie, this is important. Even Minat Torah, while the standard is 40 minus 1, 39.
Right.
In reality, very few people ever got that, because since Malchus by definition is not allowed to cause death, you're not putting him to death. There was always a doctor. There was a doctor online, and that the doctor had to check to see how much can this person handle. So there was a minimum, I think, of 3, if I remember correctly, that he had to get. But most of the time, nobody got more than that. Okay?
Now, and rabbanan also is 40 minus
Rabbanan is
1?
the same idea. Rabbanan even less. Even Rabbanan, remember, biblically is more stricter than any
Right, obviously.
So Rabbanan, if it was in Rabbanan, in fact, more than likely, if there was a thought that the guy was so weak that he wouldn't be able to handle even 1 or 3 lashes, they probably would just say, you are chayiv malchus, but we cannot give it to you. It happens to be that there are Hasidim that on Erev Yom Kippur get themselves lashed with a gartel. They simply take the gartel, they tell somebody else, bend down and give me malchus. And so you hit them with 39 times with the gartel, right? No one said you gotta that should work, and that's it. And this way they take care of the chayve malchus for the year. In short. So back to our Gemara over here. Hagufakash, right? No, the question is good. Hagufakasha. Amrit Seyo Yisroif. We said something that is Seyo, this incomplete leavened bread, this nuksha bread, Yisroif should be burned. Alma Osabano. That means it's also from having benefit. Vahadar, it says right after that, Tani B'Nosalifnei Kelboy. You're allowed to give it to your dog. You see from over here that you're allowed to have benefit. So it's up to Gemara Hachikama. Seir Yisrael. Seir needs to be burnt. The question is, when does Seir begin? When does something reach? When does this matzah, as it were, reach the level of Seir? The Rameya, the Rameya, the Rabbi Yehuda, the Rabbi Yehuda. It's a mission we're going to have later. And this is what it means. We said before, if you all remember, that bread rises, and here's where the issues are. First, it rises. If it first starts becoming white, and then it develops cracks, and then the cracks begin to interlace one with the other. Rameir holds, as soon as the dough, the rising dough starts getting white on top, a whitish appearance, that's already seyar. That's already this incomplete leavened bread, and you now have the din of seyar, and it should be burnt. Okay? And according to Rameir, if it continues and it starts developing cracks, it's now chametz gamor. It's chametz gamor, and if you eat it while it has cracks, it's chametz gamor and you chayav kares. Rabbi Yehuda says, no. It's matzah is matzah, and even if it starts getting a pale, whitish appearance, it's still matzah, it's still good. When it develops cracks, according to Rabbi Yehuda, while Rameir says when it develops cracks, it's actually fully chametz. Rabbi Yehuda says, no, that's when it becomes seyar, incomplete leavened bread, chametz naksha. Rabbi Yehuda holds, and when the cracks start interconnecting, it starts cracking over there, and they start interlacing one with the other, then it's chametz gamor. So now the Gemara says like this: Seyur Yisrael, Seyur, this chametz naksha, this incomplete chametz should be burned. Rameir, when it starts getting white. Rabbi Yehuda, no, only when it gets past the whiteness and starts developing cracks. And since it's according to Rameir, at the point that it gets white, it's chametz naksha. And according to Rabbi Yehuda, at the point when it develops cracks, it's chametz naksha. Both of them holds v'nos lifnei chal kelboy. The truth is, you should burn it, meaning you shouldn't eat it, but you're allowed to have enough from it. You're allowed to benefit from it by giving it to your dog. Okay, this is v'nos lifnei kelboy. This is the Rameir Rabbi Yehuda. This is according to Rameir, based upon Rabbi Yehuda, according to Rabbi Yehuda. In other words, Rameir says, when is it seyar? And you got to burn it when it gets white. Rabbi Yehuda says, when it gets white, you're allowed to give it to your dog. It's not yet seyar. Give it to your dog. You're allowed to have benefit. But if you eat it, you get 40 lashes. We're talking about seyar. Rameir, we come back to Rameir, that where there are cracks, according to Rameir, where there are already, when it turns white, when it turns cracks, repeat that. And if you eat it, you get 40, is when the cracks interlace when it develops cracks. According to Rameir, when it develops cracks, that is fully chametz. According to Rabbi Yehuda, that's only chametz naksha. And chametz naksha, you wouldn't even get malchus at all. But according to Rameir, at the point of developing cracks, that's already, according to him, full-fledged chametz. So therefore, our Mishnah is Rameir. It seems pretty clear. So up to Gemara, Shemina leila Rameir. If we learn from Rameir, Noksha be'enai belav. Noksha that is be'en, it's distinct, is a lav. In other words, he says, when it gets white and it's there, it's a lav. The kol sheken, and therefore, chametz, dogon gomor, real chametz, that's actual chametz, ayedei taruvos, that's mixed up so that it's no longer discernible, but it's real chametz that's now mixed up in this. Of course, Rameir would hold that too is usher as a lav. So very good. So now we have Mount Yomer of our Mishnah of that side, and here we go. So Rav Nachman Omar Rabbi Elazar, that is Rabbi Eliezer. It's Rabbi Eliezer. The Tanya Kol Chametz. By the way, I lost everybody. I only see myself, so I hope everybody's still there. Please let me know. Tanya Kol Chametz. Dagon Gomor, Kol Chametz Dagon Gomor Oynis Korish. All real chametz is obviously, if you keep it over Pesach, the einish is kares ale ruvai, but if they're mixed up together, belav, it's a lav, and that you get malchus 40. Divrei Rabbi Eliezer, the chachamim oimrim al chametz dogon gomor einish kares. The chachamim say, we agree, of course, obviously on real chametz, on authentic chametz, the einish is kares ale ruvai, but if it's part of a mixture, below klum, it's below klum. If it's part of the mixture, it's nothing at all. So here the Chachamim are going further and said, if you have real chametz, but it's mixed up in a thing so that you cannot see the chametz at all, you don't even know it's there, below klum, it's nothing, which means the Rishonim, the question, does that mean simply that there is no punishment, there's no kares, and there's no malchus even, but there's an issur d'oraisa, there's a prohibition biblically, or only the prohibition is only rabbinical? That the Rishonim go into. So now, what do we say? Shamir leila Rabbi Eliezer. We learned according to Rabbi Eliezer, the Oma Chometz Dogin Gomor Ayidei Taruba Ispalav, that actual real chametz that gets mixed up in a mixture so that it's no longer discernible is bilav, is with the alav you get malchus, and therefore the kol shekain noksha be'enai. Logically, if taruvais, which you can't even see the chametz, is with alav, Rabbi Eliezer must hold that noksha, that incomplete chametz, but that is here, it's discernible, must also be with lav. So Zok Gemara, Rav Nachman, my time Eloi Omek Rabbi Yehuda. Why does Rav Nachman not say like Rabbi Yehuda, who learned it like Rav Meir before? Amalach, because we have a problem, says Rav Nachman. Dilma Adkan Loi Kama Rav Meir Hasam. Maybe Rav Meir didn't say only over the element Noksha Be'ene, because incomplete chametz is nonetheless discernible. That's where he says it's alive. Chametz dogen gomer ayidei tarubas, but real good old-fashioned chametz, but that is mixed up in a mixture so that it's not discernible. Loy, if it's not discernible, maybe he doesn't hold that. Maybe he only holds that it's alive only in something that is discernible, right? You're making a jump of logic. Who said that jump of logic is legitimate? The Rabbi Yehuda ma'itama lo yomer ki Rav Nachman. Why doesn't Rabbi Yehuda say that Rav Nachman that it goes according to Rabbi Eliezer? Amalach, the same idea. Ad kan lekam Rabbi Eliezer hasam elachametz doger gomor ayidei taruvos. He only said it clearly. He said very clear by real chametz that gets mixed up in a mixture so that it's not discernible. But Rabbi Eliezer says it's real chametz. Look, the fact that I can't see it, but we know that there's real chametz. So over there, I but hold it's alive. Aval noksha be'enei loy. But incomplete chametz, half leavened bread that's really unedible, even though it's here, it doesn't have the definition of chametz gomor, real complete chametz. Maybe I don't hold that. It's not the logic. It doesn't simply flow. So there's no proof all the way. Very good. So that's what we got over here. So now the Gemara is going to bring some proof to Rebbe Yehuda's position by something that Rav Yehuda says. Rav Yehuda is going to bring proof to Rebbe Yehuda. Rav Yehuda was an Amoira. Rebbe Yehuda was obviously a Tana. Tana Kabosa de Rav Yehuda. We're 1, 2, 3, 4 lines into the wide lines on Mem Gimel 43A3. Okay? Tanya Kabosa de Rav Yehuda. The pasuk says as follows: Kol all machmetzes loy sechelu. All things, anything that becomes leaven, you shall not eat. Okay, L'Rabbis, what's the word kol coming to include? All, not, it could have just said machmetzes loy sechelu. Leaven you shall not eat. What's all leaven? L'Rabbis, everything from our Mishnah. Chuta chabavli, v'seicher ha'amodi, v'chaymetzu adoini, v'zeisem ha'mitzri. Now we're now on 43A4. Okay? We got, we're almost over there. I'm sorry. Yochel yehei einish kares. I might have thought, therefore, that all of these are chayiv, not just a lav malchus, but in fact a chayiv koris, the death penalty. Talmud Loira, there's another pasuk. Ki chol oichel chametz, because all that eat chametz, the nichrisa will be cut off. What is this pasuk is going on? Al chametz dogan gomor oinish koris, on actual grained chametz, complete grained chametz, good old-fashioned real chametz, a piece of bread, a piece of cake, the oinish is koris. Vale ruvai, but on a mixture where it's not be'en, where it's not discernible, is belav, is only with a lav for malchus. So Zakti Gemara, my shamet le amal ruve belav. Who is the one that we learned before that on a ruvai, on mixtures, chametz gomor that gets mixed so that it's not discernible, you get a lav? We just said before, Rabbi Elezi. It was Rabbi Elezi. But before he said, he didn't mention naksha, incomplete chametz, that is discernible. He didn't say, and that was the reason why the other man, the Omar, did not learn it out of Rabbi Eliezer. But over here in this baraisa, we see that it says chametz naksha, kutach, secher hamodi, all of these are chametz naksha. All of these are incomplete chametz sticker things, moldy bread, other things. Shemami no naksha Rabbi Eliezer Leslie. From here we see that naksha Rabbi Eliezer does not hold. In other words, what he's holding is dafka, where it's actual chametz, where you actually have chametz. That gets malchus. Where it's not actual full-fledged chametz, even if it's iben, that does not, it's aser, don't get me wrong, it's aser, but you don't get malchus. So Zakti Gemara Rabbi Eliezer Ruve Belav Minole. How does Rabbi Eliezer know that mixtures, something that's mixed and is no longer discernible, gets a lav, gets malchus? Tiksib, because we just said, the pasuk said, Kol machmesetz lo yitzechelu. All chametz you shall not eat. I was up to Gemara. Why, if it's part of this yesod of all chametz you shall not eat, ihachi koris nami lechayiv. In that case, why are you saying they're only getting a lav, malchus? They're part of the whole chametz. They should be like all regular chametz and get koris. Because it does say in the other pasuk, Kikol oichel machmetzes, whoever should eat chametz, the nichrasa shall be cut off. Says the Gemara, no, because that other pasuk of Kikol oichel machmetzes v'nichrasa, we need it for something else. Ahumi boyeleka detanya. Ainli machmetzes ainli elo. Ainli elo shenichmetzas me'elov. We had this before. I might have thought when it says all things that are chametz, it's only if it becomes chametz through itself, not with an outside agent. Machmas davarachaminayin. If you need to introduce a secondary agent that will then fire up the leavening process. Let's say, for an example, vinegar. Right? Let's say if then we say, assuming vinegar, according to the one that says vinegar creates is a leavening agent, or Talmud Loima, kol machmetzes v'nichrisa, all machmetzes v'nichrisa, okay, all that even includes chametz that needs an outside agent to get it to grow, to get it to leaven. Ihachi the lav nami lahachi udiasa. Wait a minute, then you need it also. Very good, you're learning about kares, but you need another pasuk to teach us that if you do any of this inadvertently, if you eat it inadvertently, you get malchus. You need it. You have to have a pasuk for that. So say that's what the pasuk is coming for, to teach us that chametz that something that becomes chametz ayidei davaracha with an outside agent, that if you do it b'shoigeg, you need to get, you need to get malchus, which means then that the pasuk is not available to teach us about mixtures. It's not available to teach us about taruvos, which would then mean that I have no pasuk to teach me that chametz that gets mixed up into something else, and so it's no longer discernible. How do I know that it gets malchus? How do I know that Yechayev Alav gets malchus? The psukim are all taken up to teach me something else. So it says the Gemara, you're right. Based upon this, you're right. I gotta do it. So I gotta do it a different way. If I have to learn, if I need the psukim to teach me that there's chorus for things that require something else to make it leaven for chorus, and therefore I need another pasuk to teach me that if you eat such inadvertently, something that needed something else to become chametz, inadvertently you ate it, that it gets malchus. So therefore I have no pasuk available to teach me about malchus, lava malchus regarding taruvos, a mixture. Zok the Gemara, Ela Talmud Rabbi Eliezer, the Talmud Rabbi Eliezer, Mikol is from, the Talmud Rabbi Eliezer is from the word Mikol. Okay? So it goes like this. Give me a second over here. So the Talmud, Ela Talmud Rabbi, now, that's why I'm saying, we're up to 43A5 on the bottom. Ela Talmud Rabbi Eliezer is Mikol. Is from the person Mikol. The pasuk says like this: Kol machmetzes loy seichelu. All chametz you shall not eat. The kol, the extra kol, comes to also add taruvos belav. That mixtures are with the lav. Elatam mikol. So it's up to Gemara if that's the case. Hasam nami haksiv kol. The pasuk by chorus says, right? The pasuk by chorus says, ki kol. If that's the case, then in that case, taruve should also be under the side of chorus. If you're going to darshan the word kol, if you're going to say the word kol comes to include taruvos, mixtures, then you would have to say that the possible ki kol oichel chametz v'nikrasa also needs to include the taruvos. And if that's the case, then it should get chorus. So it's up to Gemara, who mi boyle Rabbi says anoshim. This is coming to include women in the whole Isser of Chametz, on Pesach. So it's up to Gemara number one. Noshim, mida Rabbi Yehuda Merav Nafka. Regarding the halachas and regarding women, that's according to, we already learned it out from Rabbi Yehuda Merav Nafka. The Amar Rabbi Yehuda Merav. V'chein Tani Rabbi Yishmael, because Rabbi Yehuda Merav and also from the yeshiva of Rabbi Yishmael, they learned Omar Krol. The pasuk says, "Ish o isha ki yasu mikol chatas ha'adam." A man or a woman who shall do from any mikol chatas ha'adam, any sins of a man, hashava hakosa. The pasuk comes to bring together. The brother comes to equate ish leisha lechol einshim shebet a man and a woman to all prohibitions, all punishments in the Torah. So Abizah, you don't need this pasuk of ki kol oichel chametz v'nichasa to teach us about the women, that the women are also part of the Isser chametz. In that case, it could be used for taruvas, and then taruvas would also be a chayiv karis, would also get cutting off. So Zakti Gemara, Itzrich, we do need. We are now on Amud Beis, 43b1. Sal kedat. I hope everybody's there because again I only see myself. Sal kedat chamina. I might have thought hoil because it says diksiv loy soichel alav chametz shivas yomim toichel alav matzos. Do not eat chametz 7 days. You shall eat matzos. Kol sheyesh no bekum oichel matzah. Anybody who is part of the commandment to get up and eat matzah, yeshnu bebal toichel chametz, is therefore also in the prohibition against eating chametz. V'hani noshe, but these women, hayu v'lisna bekum oichel matzah, but these women who are not part of the positive commandment of eating matzah, at least at this moment in the Gemara, since the eating matzah is a mitzvah, shezman groma is a mitzvah, a positive commandment that time that time causes, and the rule is all mitzvahs that time causes, women are potter. So, for an example, every day women are not mechuyev to say Kriya Shema twice a day. Okay, they're not mechuyev in shofar, they're not mechuyev in lulav and esrog, they're not mechuyev in sukkah, so on and so forth. And the reason for this, the positive commandments thereof, right? And which then leads to Shabbos, right? That leads to Shabbos. Apparently, according to this, they would not be mechuyev in the positive commandments of Shabbos, only the negative commandments of Shabbos. But we're going to see from here how we learned that out. But why is that? Because the women are busy. Their job is to run the house, to run the children, etc. It's a terrible imposition to ask them to prepare for Yom Tov, to prepare for Shabbos, to get the kids ready for school, so on and so forth. And at the same time, have to deal with the exact same mitzvahs, the time mitzvahs that the men have to run and do. So the Torah is only mechayiv the men to do mitzvahs such as man grama, positive commandments that time causes. So therefore, we got over here. These women, they are not part of it. They don't have the positive command to eat matzah, because it's a positive commandment that time causes. I might have thought, therefore, they are also not the same way that they are not in the matzah. They're not in the command, the negative commandment of eating chametz, because they're tied together. Because the pasuk says, "Lo of chametz, you shall not eat chametz. Shivas yomim matzahs. 7 days you shall eat matzah." Kamash malon, the word kol in the other pasuk, the pasuk that says kol in the other pasuk, it comes to the pasuk of ki kol oichel chametz v'nichrisa. That key, that extra key comes teach us, the extra kol, all comes to teach us that even women are mechayiv in the isser and the prohibition of eating chametz. So Zok the Gemara, v'hash this rabbi about teichel chametz, and now that you've said that they are part of the prohibition against eating chametz, is rabbi nami lechilas matzah. So therefore we go the other way and say they are of course included in the mitzvah, in the positive mitzvah, the positive commandment of eating matzah. Kid Rabbi Elazar, the Omer Rabbi Elazar, no shim chayavas b'achilas matzah v'davar Torah. Women are mechuyev to eat matzah by the word of the Torah. Shenema, because the pasuk says, "Lo yisaychel alav chametz shivas yomim alav matzah." You shall not eat chametz 7 days. You should eat matzah. Kol sheyeshna b'bal toichel chametz. Anybody who has the prohibition against eating chametz, yeshna b'achilas matzah, is also in the commandment of eating matzah. V'hani noshi, and these women, since we have now proven from the person kikol chametz, whoever eats chametz shall be cut off. And the kol comes to teach us they are part of the prohibition of eating chametz. Yes, they are also part of to arise and eat matzah. So Zok the Gemara Davi's question: my chaz is the high call that this person ki kol hoichel matzah kol hoichel chametz le'arubei noshim umaf kev erubei. Who said that this person call is only coming to teach us that women are mechuyev in the isser of eating chametz, and not to teach us that a ruvai, that chametz that are part of the mixture get kares. Zok the Gemara mistabra, because it's more logical. The pasuk is talking about eaters, all people that eat. So therefore, it's logical to continue and attach it to other people that eat, i.e. women. Rather than saying the pasuk is talking about eaters, and to add to it, and to eat things that are eaten, i.e. taruvos, mixtures. So in other words, mixtures are the cheftza, are the item. People are the gavra. The pasuk is talking about the gavras. All that eat. That means eaters. So since we're dealing with eaters, it's obviously more logical to attach more eaters to the pasuk, i.e. women, into the isser of chametz and being over on kares. Masha'en taruba's mixtures, which is something that's eaten, is not included in there, and therefore it doesn't get cursed. So pray to Gemara, Maskiv Rav Nosson Abu de Rav Huna, Berei de Rav Nosson, ask Rav Nosson, the son of the father of Huna, the son of Rav Nosson, he says, is this a fact that every time a pasuk says what he calls, when we're talking about eaters, the gavra, we do not attach to it eating the chepsa items about eating. But Tanya, we learned this is regarding menachos. Menachos, remember, was the meal offering, the grain offering. And the pasuk over there says, Ki kol oichol chelev min habeima. Oh no, this is not about menachos. I'm so sorry. I'm jumping ahead. Okay, this is talking about chelev. If you remember, on a domesticated animal, you're not allowed to eat its fats. Only on a chai, on a wild animal. But a domesticated animal, you're not allowed to eat other fats. But the pasuk actually says as follows: Ki chol oichol chelev min habeima asher yakriv. For anybody who eats chelev, the fats from the animal that one offered as a ishel Hashem, as a fire offering to Hashem, that the nikrasa, that soul that shall eat from it, shall be cut off from its people. Okay, so the pasuk says, you eat the fats of a carbon of an offering, you will get cut off. So Zakti Gemara, I might have thought this only means fats from an animal that is a tummy that is unblemished, that can be brought as a offering on the altar. Okay, I'm so sorry. Hold on 1 second. Sorry about that. It sounds like this. I might have thought this is only talking about something that could actually be brought as a offering, i.e., it doesn't have any blemishes. How do I know that the chaylev, the fats of a blemished animal, are included in this? Talmud loima min ha behema, from the behema, the hey hayedia, the extra hey. It could have just said min behema. What's the ha behema? That comes to add even animals that are blemished that cannot be brought onto the altar, that are holy but cannot be brought into the thing because they have a blemish. Now I ask the Gemara, chaylev chulin minayin. How do I know good old regular meat, Jerry Abinson meat? In other words, meat that you chef, the regular slaughtering meat that we all eat every day. How do we know we're not allowed to eat from those fats? Talmud loima ki kol, for any. The extra key comes to add even regular meat. In this isser of domestic animals, you're not allowed to eat their fats. We're on 43b2. We were getting to the end over here. So now, now you see over here, the pasuk says, Kikola oichel, whoever shall eat, is talking about the people, and it adds in things that are eaten, i.e., chulin, regular non-sacred stuff, and animals that are blemished. So you see, you could go, pasuk can be talking about eaters and include things that are eaten. And to the Gemara, some deleka, oichlin, marben, necholim. We're there in the case of chaylev, of fats, there are no more eaters to add. Everybody is also on the chaylev. Nobody argues on that. No one disagrees. So since there's no more people to add, you might as well add, if you're finished with all the eaters, you go ahead and you add things that are eaten. But here where there is something to add, i.e. the women, that because I might have thought they're not in eating of matzah, because matzah is a mitzvah sheishas mangrama, positive commandment that's not the time causes, so therefore they're not in the isser of the prohibition of eating chametz because they're tied together in the same pasuk. I might have thought that it's logical, right? So therefore you need the pasuk to tell me that they are included in chametz, and therefore memela they're also included in matzah. But that's what you needed the pasuk. So you need to include an eater. But one cannot, one will not abandon, as it were, the remaining eaters and start including things that are eaten. Okay, we'll stop over here. The less of coal, like Darish, what is it? How do they know about the women? We'll pick it up from here, Amir Hashem, tomorrow